Hi, everyone, and welcome to Friends of Impact Friday. Today I am joined with the fabulous Janey, and I met Jane in mentorship with Kim Calvert. And I suppose it was the common interest or common journey of overcoming grief. And there were certain parts of Jane's story that really inspired me, but also touched my heart. I think it's like everybody in that community, we've all a lot in common. But Janey has transformed from going through that and turning her pain into power to impact people's lives through becoming a grief educator and guide, also with Dynamite Lifestyle to mentor people through achieving their goals and creating the life that they want by design. So it's an honor to speak to Janey. I also love the fact she lives in the countryside and loves nature and very family orientated. So first of all, you look fabulous. I love the hair, love the outfit. You're getting ready to go out later on. So thank you so much, Janey. I really appreciate the conversation. How are you keeping?
Thank you so much for inviting me along. It's amazing to be part of your journey as well, Louise. I watched you grow after you joined PT Path to Achievement. And not like you said, met you through Dynamite Lifestyle.
Mm.
My journey, probably, well, not sure where to start. I don't want to go into the right depths because
I know.
I don't like triggering people, but obviously you've already mentioned the grief word. People know who I am and what I do. So I'll not go into the gory details as some people might. But I was actually guided to mentorship, and there was a reason I was guided to mentorship. So
Mm.
my journey with grief started now, as I realise, when I've just finished a 12-week training program as a grief educator, which I'll mention later.
Yeah.
And we had to delve into past grief from the age of 18. And I have to say I'm rather lucky that I was 18 when I lost my first grandparent.
Mhm.
So we delved into that grief and going back over the grief that we'd had throughout our lifetime. And I don't know why I've gone off on that tangent, but never mind. Anyway,
Mhm.
the reason I joined mentorship and we got to meet each other was 2022. 2022 was a year that I would not want to repeat in any shape or form.
Mhm.
I had both of my hips replaced. My mum died. My husband died. We had two close family friends who died. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, what, why? All the
Mhm.
questions we ask ourselves. And it was through a friend that I was guided to mentorship.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's this going to do? What is this going to do? How is it going to help me? And then you question yourself, you question your decisions. But I have to say, I've never looked back
Mhm.
since I started that journey of mentorship with Kim Calvert.
Mhm.
And it was actually through Brian doing a seminar that you had on last week that I actually joined Dynamite Lifestyle. So I have that connection with Brian as well.
Yeah. So I thought I was his favorite, and then I seen you, and I was like, oh, the competition.
No. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like it is a journey, and it is one that has been profound, powerful, and what it's it's almost finding purpose in what has happened and
Mhm.
the guidance from Dynamite, the community, the friends you make,
Mhm.
and the love that everybody shares is absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
that is how I've got to where I am as Journey with Janey, a business
Mhm.
that I've started that I never thought I'd be starting a business at my age. I'm ready to
Mhm.
retire, not start a business, but I feel it is my purpose to actually help other people because at that period of my life when these things happened, I couldn't find that one person, one thing, whatever, however you want to sort of look at it, that one thing that was going to help me to find me again. Does that make sense? It was kind of like I was just like, you know, you go soul searching, you search the internet, you search the webs, everything. I had no real assistance from any of the healthcare to guide me into where to look or what to do.
Yeah.
So I want to be that person that I needed back in 2022. So here I am.
I know, I love it. I love it. And it's and I think a lot of people feel like that. They have so many challenges and trauma and loss and obviously health, all of these things that impact. And sometimes like we feel like everything's crashing down when it's actually the rebuild of somebody even stronger, more resilient and more empowered. So it leads you on a different path of now sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience, and doing good in the world. Because obviously, at that time, and I was like yourself, I felt lost and I didn't know what was the next step. And it's like you feel like, again, we can look on things on YouTube and they give temporary motivation, but it's somebody guiding you step by step. Let's look at where are you at? Where are you at? Like what's currently happening? And really look at all the different areas and how can you change that to achieve what you want. And I think it changes everything is in the reframing, like counseling and all those therapies are fantastic. But I feel like if you want to move forward instead of reliving and keep dragging up the hurt and that kind of thing, it means that you're not moving forward. So the fact that now you can help people, okay, navigate, let's help you heal, release, let go, and then step forward into something that's going to feel more empowered and create something out of chaos, create calmness of mind. So it's incredible. Can you talk to me about your book? Because I'm really interested in that. I think it's very inspiring. When I see it, I was like, oh, I love it. Like,
Right.
amazing.
So as many might know, some who are watching may not know, we should all be setting goals. One of the first things we're taught in mentorship is to set a goal.
Mm.
And at that particular point on my journey, obviously, I was just starting out and I was like, what? No idea what goals was. I was happy being a farmer's wife in the house, being the wife, doing whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to set some goals. So my first goal was to write a book. And the idea was to write a storybook for boys on the farm, like a reading book, not just like a picture book, like, when you start to read, but like the next step. And I found myself a book coach and talking to her, and she's like, no, you just got to write from your heart and see what comes through. Mm-hmm. So my first book is called You Never Realize. So it's Janey, You Never Realize. And it is all about my life growing up on a farm as a youngster. So with my mum and my dad, my brother, and basically all the memories of my life growing up.
Yeah.
When I've looked back on it, I'll be honest, I haven't read it. I didn't reread it. It was written, sent to the editor, and published. It was actually my grieving process for my mum. I realised that afterwards, once it was written, that was what it was. So I have it. It's in the background here. You might not.
So you have two books. I didn't realize it was two you have. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You get them on Amazon. And of course, I enjoyed it so much, I wrote another one. So there's also Janey the Daydreamer, which is my journey. It started out in mentorship and also my life living my dream. So it's kind of a double-sided story. And Brian Cassidy actually very kindly wrote the foreword for that one. So that one's also on Amazon. And they're both international bestsellers as well. So
wow.
super duper proud of myself.
Congratulations.
So the idea is to do a rainbow series.
Mm.
So there's 5 more to go.
Oh,
They're easy reads,
mm,
and it is basically what I want. They're tools to my grief journey. And
yeah.
the next step for me is to do almost like a grief guide, which will be out by the end of the year. The
Hmm.
grief guide as my story on my recent trip on my holidays, which was very transformational,
Hmm.
and linking that into triggers and how to deal with triggers in grief. You know, a lot of people would class me as still being very early on in my grief journey.
Hmm.
Um, I actually feel like I'm healed. If I'm, you're never healed. You
Hmm.
grow, so your grief gets smaller. And I think I realized when I was away that there was grief that needed to be dealt with that I'd kind of just sort of pushed aside. And
Hmm.
I had to be away from the environment that I'm in, because obviously that is the environment that Jonathan was with us all the time, still living in the
Yeah.
same house, on the farm, still farming, blah de blah. And I think I needed that space of no noise, no environment, no nothing, and just switching off all the senses to it, and releasing that grief that was stuck.
Mhm.
But it needed to be somewhere else, not here. So there was a reason why I was drawn to go to where I did.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying I'm going to write 5 more books
Wow.
to
But
help with the grief journey, but based on my story, so people get the journey of what I've done and what I've, as I've grown in my awareness, what I can actually give to people
yeah,
well on their growth journey.
yeah. So firstly, I want to say it's really inspiring and absolutely incredible the fact that you wrote your first 2 books. So again, it's really encouraging anyone that's watching this that it's never too late. And it's a healing process of writing as well. So the fact that you've done that, I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I was like, why don't you just write a few books? Because she's creative and she's so much knowledge and so much like creativity. And I was like, just go and do it because there's a book in all of us. But the fact that you had the courage and that you took action, inspired action to create this and bring it out to the world. I love that, and I want for anyone watching to use that as inspiration. It's again that taking action, and actually you can do it, and it will impact lives. So I want to congratulate you, and I think it's absolutely incredible that you again went on that journey of sharing all of that with people. Um, but also now having the 5 books, and it's created even more expansion and creativity. So well done. I bet you never thought you'd be writing books, you know.
I think it was one of those things,
Mm,
obviously you get the question, what's your goal? And what have you always dreamt of doing? And I was like, can't really think of anything. And I was like, it came from nowhere. When you have these conversations yourself, Louise, that you're like, where did that come from? Um,
mm,
and that, and it is hands up. I never thought I could write a book, and now I'm like, it's almost like a therapy.
mm,
Writing a story and knowing that people who read it get something out of it.
mm.
So yeah, it is. I don't see it as inspiring because it's just what I do. But if you told me this
I think
like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, even, I would have gone, what? I'll have written and published 2 books and thinking about writing 5 more. I would have gone, oh, don't be stupid. I haven't got time for that.
yeah, yeah. But
So
the fact that the mentorship and even those, the questions and the guides that has brought that out in you. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people, that we have these dreams and goals and ambitions. And I didn't know what it was like to set goals either. And even when I was asked, it was like, oh, I can? Me? So it's again tapping into that what's inside us, and that's it's inside us all along, but then we kind of lose our way to commitments, responsibilities, the old ways of thinking, and saying I can't, I'm not good enough. So again, you are an incredible role model and inspiration, so you wear that proudly, because it's not everybody that does it, but anybody that's watching it, I want them to look at you and go, do you know what, well, if you can do it, yeah, I can. And even for them to reach out to you, because there is a book in all of us, we all have a journey, but it's the ones who take that step forward and create it and bring it out in the world and realize you have a gift. You're expressing it. So it's incredible. I'm very envious. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I know that it's definitely on my journey as well. And that's why it's so inspiring. She just took action. You know, it's not letting those I can't, I don't have time. It's we make the time, do it, because that's your legacy. That's your, gift to the world, is sharing that knowledge. So, can you tell me or talk to me about David, is it Kessler? I know you'd mentioned his name
Yeah,
before, so
David Kessler is American. He's very renowned in the American sort of death and dying grief expert, I think is how he sort of sells himself, if you can
yeah.
call it that. He's written numerous books, and he has written two which are very, very meaningful, that are with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who is another renowned expert in death and dying as well.
Hmm.
Um, David's specifically known for his this is like a real tongue twister, sixth stage of grief, because a lot
Okay.
of people talk about the 5 stages of grief, but his final stage is about finding meaning in the death.
Mm.
Or it's not just death. Grief can be absolutely anything, Louise. It can be loss of a pet, loss of your life, loss of your love. Oh, God, tongue twisted here.
Mm.
Loss of your job, loss of like being retired, being made redundant, loss of a relationship. It, in fact, anything. You can
Hmm.
be grieving anything at any particular time in your life. It's not just a person.
Yeah.
For me, my biggest loss was my identity.
Mm.
So for me, it was finding the meaning in that.
Yeah.
So I was the same as before with the mentorship. I was guided to David Kessler by somebody to have a look and see what he did. I read some of his books, and then he launched his grief educator program. So I've just finished that. I'm waiting on the certification coming through.
Mm.
So I've spent 12 weeks on weekly calls alongside my mentorship calls. So and then teaching labs where we talk amongst each other, answer questions. And I think one of my biggest takeaways from that training
Hmm.
is how to listen to understand,
Mm.
and how powerful silence is in witnessing people's grief.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people aren't broken, they don't need to be fixed, they just need somebody to be there. And that is where I'm coming from now as a grief guide,
Hmm.
to be that person to hold the hand, not like literally hold the hand, but walk alongside them
Hmm.
and guide them, because actually you don't have a foggy notion where you're actually going or what you're doing.
Hmm.
And sometimes you just need somebody just to say, well, actually, do you think you might be able to make it to the shops today to get some shopping?
Hmm.
Or do you think you might be able to take the dog for a walk rather than Sue from next door having to come and walk your dog?
Hmm.
So just building little small action steps into a journey, uh,
Yeah.
which is basically what mentorship did for me.
Hmm.
But sometimes people need a bit more nurturing and a bit more guidance to actually take the small steps first.
Yeah.
Somebody to listen, somebody to witness, somebody to actually understand to a certain level what they're actually going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, David Kessler was or is absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
He runs his own programs and things, and he also runs a Tender Hearts group as well. So he has his own sort of ways of doing things as well. So
Yeah.
very, very interesting. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to the world as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. So you're a Dynamite delegate as also, and then this is another additional layer onto what you do. So I want to acknowledge all of the work that you have done, firstly on yourself and invested and committed and wanting to change, because it's easy to say, and a lot of us do, I don't have the time, I don't have the resources, it's not possible for me. But always believe it's like when we get to a point where it's like our backs against the wall and we just can't keep doing the same thing. That's when you're ready to take action. It's like, actually, I'm not listening to any that, negative kind of mindset, because it's like, okay, if I keep doing the same thing, I keep creating the same results. And also there's people that know that there's more for them in life. So it's having that awareness. It's again taking that first step, and that's why I love having these conversations, because if anybody's listening, it's like, reach out. Don't be sitting on the sideline, don't be wishing and wondering, because we only have one life, and we all go through trauma, we all have setbacks and challenges, and none of us, we all have hurt and heartbreak and everything else, but it's what we do with it.
Yeah.
It's like rewriting your story. It's taking your power back. Do you know what? It's like that healing is part of life, but it's also not staying in that place. It's like actually using your story to firstly change your own self-image, and then take your power back, and then go on a different path, because it's really inspiring. It's like when we step into our power and when we start having more confidence and using our voice to express ourselves, it means that it reminds people who are in struggle or survival or suffering that they're not on their own. We've all had things to navigate through. So, again, I want to acknowledge you, the fact that you've done so much work in yourself and you've really invested, and now you get to help people step by step, and with empathy. Because I think when you go through something, you can really deeply empathize, and you feel people's pain because you've been there. So again, it's a really incredible sign of strength and commitment to you and to to what you want to do in the world. Can you talk to me about, let's say your community, and like what's important to you now? I know the books are out there, you're Dynamite delegate, which again, you're in that fabulous community. I have seen even your transformation, and even today I was like admiring your hair, and you're going to this party later, and I love that because you're continually getting out of your comfort zone and stretching yourself. So um, what's important to you now?
I think, firstly, thank you for the wonderful comments, and accepted
Yeah,
and
all
great.
the love, all the love.
Um, for me, as the owner of Journey with Janey, which is
Mm,
a company that I started, I've just created what I think is just absolutely awesome. And
hmm.
we touched on this earlier, Louise, when we were talking before about nature being a healer. And
Mm,
that is what I have found so much healing in the nature that surrounds me. Uh,
yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned about us being a farmer and things like that. So I have nature on my doorstep. I have animals walking past my window or putting their noses on my window when I'm sat on a Zoom call. There's none here at the minute because it's so warm. Um, but yeah, and I think while I was away, I actually, as with my title for the first book, you never realize what you've got until you
Mm,
until it's not there.
hmm.
And it took me to realize that actually I have what people need on my doorstep. So
Yeah.
I've created the Quiet Field,
Mm,
which is a 1 day retreat to spend a day with me in the hills of Northumberland as whatever people want. You
mm,
you touched on everybody has had trauma. everybody has growth, um, you know, pain, finding purpose and finding meaning is huge.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to be still first to
Yeah.
find just that little bit of inner you to actually give you the push to move forward.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the quiet field has been created, and just the calmness and healing that I get from being in nature. I just want to share that because it is healing.
Yeah. Totally transformation, and it's so funny or ironic. I'm doing the same next weekend. I'm running retreats, and it's transformation and empowerment because, like that, we when we were having the conversation, like nature, like that for me, it's so incredibly healing, and it reminds us that there's so much more to this world. There's so much happening that we can't see. There's so much abundance. I even shared with my friend yesterday about this bird, and I grew up in the country. I wouldn't mind, but I obviously wasn't aware. I always loved nature, but wasn't really tuned in. And it's only the last few weeks from moving into the country that there was this bird in particular. I was walking up the road the other day and I thought there was a few birds on this tree, but actually it was one bird had different vocal ranges, different, expressing different songs to sing. And it reminded me that even though you might not have anybody to listen to your song, keep singing, keep using your voice. It's not about the numbers. It's not about what people think. It's not about their perception. A bird doesn't stop singing just because it's like, oh, I wonder, have I got my audience? It's like you keep but it's all
Yep.
these different vocal ranges and different sounds coming out of it. I was blown away. I was like, am I just awake right now? Or what's happening? Or have I turned into, somebody that's going to be, I've always hugged trees, but it's like that thing of when we connect to nature, we connect to ourselves. And it reminds us that we need to quieten down the mind and create calmness and stillness because there's so much noise, so many notifications, all of that which puts people's nervous system in fight or flight. So I love the fact we're definitely on the same mission of sharing. And I think it's sharing what we have because we don't realize until, as you said, when you're away, but it's like having peace of mind is invaluable.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth millions to have peace of mind. So like that I shared with my clients. It was like I want to share this, and I love that you're doing the same. It's share what we have and uh, guide people through their own healing journey, and whatever way it goes, it goes. But I think it's like when you're doing something from love, that's felt, and
Yeah.
when you can connect to people and understand what they're going through, they feel supported and nurtured. So I love that. It's yeah, it's incredible, and it's all those little things. It's as I said, the birds, the nature, the trees, just no traffic. My
No.
last place was always there was car alarms going off at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, oh. And even when I was meditating, there was somebody playing heavy metal up, in a few apartments away, and I was like, "This is the universe saying, girl, get out. It's time." How was your trip away on holidays? Was that a solo trip or did you meet people?
It was a solo trip.
You're
My
done.
first solo trip since 1994. I'm now
Wow.
showing my age. Um, like long haul. Obviously, I've hopped backwards and forwards to Northern Ireland and traveled in the UK. But this
Mm,
was long haul. I was in Bermuda, so
mm,
I was. My cousin actually lives out there,
yeah.
so I had somewhere to stay. But I was
Mm,
still traveling on my own. I still had to travel to London. Still had to get on the plane. But like I said before, the whole trip was transformational. And I don't know
mm,
why, but I knew before I went that it was going to be, but I hadn't really thought much about it till I was actually there. But there was so much
mm,
healing for me, and just being able to spend time, no rush, no nothing. And I think because I was actually living in a house rather than a hotel, I wasn't tired
mm.
at times. I never wore a watch the whole time I was away. Well, I don't wear a watch full stop uh, anymore. I just don't.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was just the fact that it was just like I was relaxed as soon as
Mm,
I got on the aeroplane and able to spend time on me and working on my inner self.
Hmm.
and just sitting in silence with the birds tweeting in the trees and the sea lapping at the beach that was empty. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just absolutely amazing.
But that's really encouraging for women who have had similar journeys that they can find themselves again and start living life again and reinvent themselves. So, it- it's if someone's watching this and they're feeling a bit lost, or if they're feeling like they're so attached, as in, having the couple identity and not been afraid to maybe step out of their comfort zone, or even there's a lot of women that are afraid to go even for a coffee by themselves because they're so used to that family environment. So the fact that you're doing that, it's a really encouraging sign for someone that's maybe struggling through grief and feeling lost and overwhelmed, that again, you can recreate your life and start building your confidence and doing the things that you'd love to do instead of waiting for the right time. It's you create the right time. So that's why I shared that, because when I seen the photos, I could see the happy face and I was like, oh, but you learn so much about yourself when you're away from everybody, don't you?
Yeah. And I think the fact that, like you're saying about giving people the encouragement,
Mm,
I did struggle to go, I'll be honest, I did struggle to go out on my own. Um, what I found was obviously everybody buzzes around you at the start and your friends are there, but then they all go back to work.
yeah.
And I think it just took me one day to go, you know what, I'm just gonna get in the car. And we have a little local sort of cafe which has shops and things around. So it's still in the countryside. So I still felt in my happy place.
Yeah.
Um, and I went and had a coffee and then I wandered around the shops and I thought, you know what, I am going to have my lunch as well. So I had lunch and it just took that one thing to actually go, you can do this. So the next time I went to a busier place,
Mm,
the, the one thing that was the hardest was a Sunday lunch.
yeah.
But once you've done it once, it's fine. And I
Yeah.
think for me, it's realizing that actually doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
Let them look at you. I've started waving at people now. Like when sat on my own, because my dad will say, well, if you'd rang us, I would have come with you. I was like, I didn't want you to come with me. I wanted to go on my own.
Yeah.
Because you can sit in your own thoughts, you can appreciate the foods that's on your plate.
Mm,
And, you do get looks. And actually you can see people anyway, that's a whole different tangent, but it's learning to be happy in your own self
mm,
and not worry about what people think or what's going through other people's heads or whatever.
yeah. They
So,
say, never worry about the opinions of others because they don't pay your bills. And I used to always repeat that on my mind all the time because I used to always be afraid of what people would say. And even as a young woman, I remember the first time going for my coffee because I had so much overwhelm. I was like, oh my God, they're looking. And nobody, after a while, like they might look for a minute, but then they don't care. They're either on their phones or they're not. Everybody's so busy in their own lives. But then, as you said, either wave, or what I would have done was bring a book or bring a magazine or something
yeah,
that if I did feel awkward, at least that changed my focus. But the more that you do it, it's that building a muscle. And the more that you enjoy it, and you're like, "Do you know what? I'm actually just going to chill and people watch, or, just enjoy the whole thing." It means that instead of making it such a big deal, you enjoy it, and then you're really proud of yourself. You've accomplished something. You've taken that wee step or jump or that leap of something that you were afraid of. And it's that thing that was shared with us all the time is like, um, fear is false evidence appearing real. It's something that we make up. But the more that you can embrace it, so I have my little dog PJ, I bring him everywhere, as you know. But and they're never looking at me, people are looking at him. So
yeah,
but it's again, if you're going out somewhere by yourself, what I would suggest to any women, either bring a notepad, a book, something that, again, when you have something to focus on, and even if it's just to write a few things down or a list, you'll enjoy the process instead of giving your power away or worrying about everybody else. It is big. And like your trip recently, I remember going to Thailand, but it's that excitement. You feel like when you can do that, you can do anything. So that's why I wanted to share that for any women that are, single or thinking about doing this or just want to trip away, just want to actually reconnect and get to know yourself because it's all a self-discovery journey. And regardless where you're at or what age you are or anything like that, it's time to, if because a lot of people don't know what they like, they don't know, let's say their interests and hobbies because they've been so used to giving so much to everybody else. So self-care is selfless because it means then you come back a fuller version of yourself. Isn't
Yeah.
that, the way I think
Yeah. Yeah.
we had it all wrong for years.
Oh, 100%. And I think, I well, my kids are obviously growing up. My daughter's moved out, and there's only myself and my son in the house now. So I am almost like a empty nester, almost. And I can see how that would hit people. But because of what I've done up until now, I
Mm,
know it's not going to be an issue because I am on my own all day anyway.
mm,
Sees how it
yeah.
works. And yeah, it's just building your confidence. And like you mentioned before about the mental muscles, building it,
Mm,
repeating it. And, it's fine. You could just go and say, right, I've done it once, that's it. But do it again, 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 again. And it becomes your new normal.
yeah.
So it is just being confident in you as a person and as a grief guide, not just uh, it's a rediscovery journey as well.
Mm,
So, grief to growth is what I kind of work on. And it's understanding what tools you can use to actually flip that page to start the new chapter.
yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight, and I haven't got a magic wand, but we
Hmm.
can help you take those little steps to get to a point where you can trust and believe in yourself to sort of either head off on your own journey or find somebody like you, Louise, or whatever that can take them that next step.
Hmm.
But people have to find the right person for them.
Yeah, I
It's
do believe it. And that's why I think it's important to have all these conversations, because again, something that you have is something that I may not have or connect you. And that's why I wanted to use my platform. I was like, I have so many incredible people who inspire me, who have so many gifts and talents. None of us are in because none of us are, why not use what share my action? Hear me?
I
Am I
missed most of
back?
that, but never mind, it's fine. Don't worry.
So I'll recap. Hopefully you can hear me now.
No.
No?
Oh, you're back now. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know what happened. It's about, can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay,
better.
so
Yeah.
so it's about like using our community or utilizing the people who do inspire us because people will resonate with your story and there's again gifts and talents and experiences and things that you've been through that somebody needs to hear right now. So that's why for me it was really important to reach out to collaborate so much within us to share and there's so many people that need what we have. So that's why I wanted to have the conversation with you because there may be people really needing to hear your message, but also your books, the all the commitments and work that you've done on yourself, and all the wisdom that you have to share. It's again, there's somebody right out there right now manifesting Janey or manifesting your book because it's the solution to helping them heal. So much. Is there anything that you'd like to share with anyone that's currently listening right now, or if they're struggling through grief? Are there any like tips or advice that you'd be able to give?
One thing I am going to say, and this,
Mm,
people might think it's a bit strange, but you're not broken. You don't need
mm,
to be fixed. And grief is unique to each and every person. And I
hmm.
think I mentioned this as we've been talking.
Yeah.
Um, we all need help with things. If the electric goes off, we'll call an electrician.
Hmm.
if the water stops, we call a plumber.
Yeah.
And, you know, reach out to whatever person resonates,
Hmm.
whatever person feels right to you at that time. A lot of it is people referral to work with me myself.
Yeah.
But the big top tip is it's okay to cry. It's okay
Hmm.
to want to have a duvet day.
Hmm.
All I will say is at some point, life does go on. It's
Hmm.
up to you what you do with your life. If you want to spend the rest of your life under your duvet,
Hmm.
so be it. You know,
Hmm.
there's no one rule for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It uh, grief is so unique, and without you can't put an umbrella over it.
Yeah.
You can because people have written books, and like I said, I've written books, but it's all personal experiences in what works for that particular person. So without
Hmm.
actually talking to somebody and feeling into where they're actually at,
Hmm.
hard to give top tips. The only top tip I have is talk to somebody
Yeah.
and make sure they're a listener.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I understand. And I think it's important for people not to stay in the struggle or in the keeping it inside. Like that. I always feel like crying is a sign of healing and releasing. It's we were told, either be seen and not heard, or crying looks vulnerable and you don't want to be that mess or that kind of thing. We get these things in our heads when, like,
Yeah.
I cry all the time now because I think actually it's who we are. Even
Exactly.
as I said, even at the bird, I'm like, oh my God, life is amazing. It's because when you've been through so much darkness and you've overcome so much, you've a newfound gratitude
Yeah.
on connections, on nature, on life, and you have less, you're more unapologetic because you know that none of us are getting out alive, really. Do you know what I mean? We're all going through the same place, unless we come back as something else. And maybe that's, again, that's another conversation. But
Totally.
it's, but it's, and this is my personal belief, or my theory is that love always stays with us, and it's how can we use their legacy to create more of an impact. And for me, somebody that passed away belonged to me, like their calm presence, and it's how can I be more of that and listen to that, guidance and tap into that, and it's so beautiful when you can celebrate someone's life and carry their legacy on, and ask yourself, so I wonder what would they say, or if it was somebody that was young that passed away. For me, it's like, well, I'm going to live my life and be fearless because they didn't get to do that. It's
Yeah.
like use it as fuel to keep you going, but also rest, not quit. Have the duvet days you were saying, have
Yeah.
your cry, reach out to someone and reach out for help, reach out for support because you're not on your own.
Yeah, and I think it's understanding that there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Mm,
Just because Joe Blogs down the road did it this way and he was up and back to work in 3 days after
mm,
that, not everybody's the same. And
mhm.
you know, I think you touched on the love thing, and one of the quotes that I'll try and remember the exact words. It's grief is love with nowhere to go.
Mm,
And that's Jamie Anderson, I think it's called. So when I found that, I was like, oh, that's quite apt. If it's a J and Anderson. So yeah, it it's one of those things, and you touched on that when you said it's a whole different ball game
mm,
about spirituality and where we go, and but all cultures deal with death differently. All
yeah,
cultures have different rituals, and like I said before, we're all unique. We'll all deal with things differently, but we do need somebody to help us on that journey.
yeah. I think it's do what's right for you or what feels true to you, but don't stay in that place of not feeling like you don't have any choices or that your life is over, because that's again a belief and that can be changed by getting to know yourself, and that love that has nowhere to go, you start putting that into you, as in, start loving yourself more and being kind to yourself and empathetic. And the first place to start is investing in yourself. Because as you were saying about the plumbers and the electricians, and this is the thing, it's all right. People are like, oh yeah, I get that fixed. But if we're not investing in our mindset, it's like there's old programming. It's going to build up because you don't have the healthy habits and routines. But also that general maintenance is like brushing your teeth. And that's what I always shared as, you got to do the work. You got to be proactive on your side. And if there are certain things happening, ask yourself, how can you change it? Because nothing changes unless we do. So I want to thank you so much. And I absolutely love your journey and the fact now that there's more books coming and there's more community and you're giving more inspiration and helping people heal. And we're all on our unique paths. But I always feel like collectively we can do so much together because it's that energy and it's having the conversations that sometimes are not the easiest, but maybe somebody will need to hear this message and it will inspire them, encourage them, and help them to go on their healing journey. So from my heart, I thank you and I wish you health, wealth, continued success, blessings, abundance, absolutely everything that your heart desires, in the future and moving forward. So thank you so much, Jane.
Well, thank you, Louise. That's been absolutely amazing. And like I say, as if I've helped one person to jump out of bed and go and make their own cup of coffee, then my work here is done. So I do have my podcaster, but I know you're going to put all the links on. And I'm just going to, this is what I say at the end of my podcast every week. There's something inside of you that knows no limits. It's time to believe in you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Amazing. So yeah, we'll put all the links here. And if anybody's curious, interested, reach out or wants the books. I got the book, the podcast, absolutely everything. We'll have all, the ways that you can access and connect and reach out to Jane. So thank you so much and have a fabulous day.